It is immoral to expect the very people who are victimized and attacked by these people to pay for these people to have room and board for the rest of their life.
Yeah. I would say no.
Okay. Because?
This is an interesting one.
It is. Anyway, Francis, I'm not going to interrupt or interfere in any way, right? But tell us why you do not support the death penalty, unlike 63% of our listeners and viewers.
Why do I not support the death penalty?
Even in those circumstances where we know for a fact that the person is who they are and they're guilty of the crime that they've been convicted of.
Even though you know for a fact, because the court system is fallible, people are fallible, there will always be an instance where someone will be executed. And there will be a mistake. There will be a miscarriage of justice.
Why? What if you only do it in cases where there's video evidence, for example? You can literally see the person stabbing people.
Okay, what happens when AI becomes better? Not AI, when technology becomes better and we get deep fakes and things like that. What happens then?
Well, I think you deal with it at that point, but we don't have that technology now.
But by the time we implement the death penalty, which will take years and years of legislation and back and forth.
No, I'd do it in a day, mate.
We're just fucking rubber stamping, getting through.
See that you're bringing stuff up that's not relevant. Like
no, that is relevant because that is going to become become mainstream technology in a couple of years. So you're saying that.
So you're saying the mainstream media and the government are going to fake somebody stabbing people on London Bridge?
No, but
then that person is going to get executed.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying video footage could erroneously be used as evidence in a court, which then later could turn out to be fake.
No, but I'm talking about a situation. Let's take a specific case because that's what I'm trying to get at, right? You've got a terrorist who's stabbing people on London Bridge. There's footage from 53 different angles showing it. There's witness evidence from about 100 people. Right. And the guy himself says, I wanted to kill those evil, whatever, infidel
pig
dogs, whatever.
Pig dogs, yeah. All right.
Right.
I prefer dog pig to pig.
Nah, pig dog's better.
Yeah.
Anyway, why are you against the death penalty in that situation?
Because you turn that person into a martyr. And then they become a martyr to the cause. And then
I'm sure anyone who considers them a martyr to the cause would consider them a martyr to the cause, even if they didn't get executed.
No, but what would happen is then that person would become a symbol of the evil West, blah, 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 blah. And there would be, I think that would actually make terrorism worse if you executed that person.
It would make terrorism worse?
Yes, it would.
How?
Because it would radicalize more people. It would be...
How? That is what they do.
Yeah,
they have the death penalty.
Yes, I know.
So how would us having the death penalty radicalize them to attack us more?
Right. Why would it? Because number one, you're applying logic to them, and their beliefs are not particularly logical. Number one, and number two, you're turning that person into a martyr. They become a symbol. If you think about lots of people throughout history who have become venerated, it's because they have a cause and then were executed whilst they were in pursuit of that cause.
So, but throwing them into prison for life, that doesn't do that.
No, not as much. We don't. No, certainly not as much. Think about people who, like, Richard Reed, the shoe bomber.
Right.
Is he a symbol? No, he's not.
Well, it's because he didn't blow anything up.
No, but
what about the people who killed Lee Rigby or the London Bridge bombers? You don't even remember any of their names.
I know, but you would do if we execute.
No, you wouldn't. You just treat them the same. And by the way, you'd have some kind of thing where the media are not allowed to bang on endlessly about their name.
Right. The media wouldn't be, but as you know, in the era of social media, that isn't an option.
Okay, fine. I think that's bullshit personally, and I think you're covering up for something else. But no, I'm serious. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, I think you have a natural opposition to the death penalty, which is more about like the sanctity of life or thou shalt not kill or whatever. And you're covering it up with this excuse. And here is how we're going to reveal that. Okay. So what about someone who is caught on video noncing hundreds of children?
Somebody who's caught on video noncing hundreds.
So we know for a fact they did it. There's no confusion. There's no ambiguity. We know that they are a full-blown nonce.
Yeah, full-blown serial
who's ruined the lives of hundreds of children and their families.
Yes.
Right. Are you going to make them a martyr for nonsense?
It's a different thing.
Right. So what's the explanation why you can't kill them?
Why you can't kill them?
Yeah.
For that crime. So this is a man. So it's obviously a man.
No, could be a trans woman.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is a trans woman or a man who is a paedophile and has nonced hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
Should he be killed by the state for his crimes?
Yeah. Now he gets it.
Right. I would say no.
Okay. Because?
This is an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. It is.
This I don't know the answer to this one, if I'm being honest. Why shouldn't we kill him? Because ultimately, I don't think the state should be in charge of someone being executed for crimes committed in that country.
Why is that?
Because, like I said, there is always a chance that...
No, but forget about that. Let's say we have technology that allows you to determine with 100%.
But I think that is that's a false position, because you are never going to be 100% certain in a conviction.
Well, or with terrorism, for example, you are.
Right. But the problem is as well,
but
if you
see,
have
your broader
this...
belief, right? So this is why, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say, but this is why I gave you the nonce example second, because I think the martyr thing is your way of covering the fact that you just don't think the state should execute people, right? You don't. And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's a perfectly legitimate point of view.
Yeah.
But you're saying, then you're starting to come up with arguments that, in my opinion, is also not what you actually believe. You just don't think the state should execute people.
I don't think the state should execute
but
people.
It's not
however, I would say that my terrorism point is a fair and legitimate one.
Fine, forget about that. So let's say, hypothetically, we had technology that allowed you to know 100%.
Which we don't.
What do you mean we don't?
We don't.
What if you have video footage and hundreds of witnesses and all these people go, this guy is a nonce?
Yeah, okay.
And I have video footage of him noncing children.
Okay.
That he recorded himself.
Okay.
And then when he gets to court, he goes, yeah, I love noncing. I am the best nonce in the history of noncing. Right?
Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
He's polite. Let's say that happens.
Yeah.
Why is it wrong for the state to execute that person?
Why is it wrong for the state to execute that person? Because ultimately, I don't think the state should have that power over its citizens.
Fine, that's just a statement of opinion, but why do you think that?
Because even if that person is guilty, further down the line, there could be further miscarriages of justice. Because wherever you have a court system, wherever you have human beings, you have the potential and the propensity for flawed decision-making.
Okay. I mean, in my opinion, you're slightly dodging the question here. And I think it comes, look, I'm projecting, I could be wrong, but I think you just fundamentally think that it's not about the potential for error. You just don't think the state should execute people because you're a nice, liberal, right-thinking person.
Nice, liberal, right-thinking person.
I think that's it, if I'm honest. But I may be projecting, and maybe that's unfair.
I know a large part of it is actually look, for instance, actually, when it comes to most left-leaning people, I think the left is too soft on crime.
Right.
I think the fact that there's a lot of people, I think the fact that Gary Glitter got 8 years in prison for his crimes is a fucking disgrace. He should have got a life sentence. He should have been banged up and the key thrown away. He's a disgusting individual. And the only time he should have been allowed out is when he's absolutely riddled with an awful illness and he's got a week to live, personally. Right? That's where I stand on a lot of these types of issues. I think a lot of crime in this country is caused by repeat offenders who bring misery amongst the poorest and most vulnerable people in society. And this liberal way of looking at crime, no, it's bollocks, right? Okay, number one. And number two, we should also invest more in the prison system so the people who can be rehabilitated have a good chance of being rehabilitated to learn skills.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, there is a small core group of criminals who will never be rehabilitated, and we need to be honest about that. And we talked.
Now you're getting it.
Right. I always get it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if there's a core group of criminals who keep reoffending, who commit heinous crimes, and we know who they are, and there's very clear evidence.
Yeah. With those group of people, I don't think we should kill them. No. I don't.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
But my point is, you keep coming up with different excuses for different things, which is how I know there's something deeper that sits underneath all of those beliefs.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible you're just a good Catholic, mate?
Is it possible thou shalt not kill? Maybe it is.
Because that's not the commandment, you know. That's not the commandment.
What is the commandment?
The commandment actually means thou shalt not murder.
Yeah.
Talk to Sophie the Bleeder about it.
Really?
Right. So it's not about people being killed, because we accept that the military kills. We accept that the state. I mean, if you think about the times in which those commandments were introduced, there's quite a lot of killing going on at that time.
There was,
right? So the commandment is thou shalt not murder.
Yeah.
As in thou shalt not kill other people against the laws of the society that you operate in.
Yeah.
Right. So every society in history has accepted that the state has the right to kill people in some way.
Yeah.
Right. And also, I mean, you get into a lot of trouble with your pro-choice position in that situation.
How do you mean?
If you believe that abortion should be possible and legal, that's hard to reconcile with thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, but then you come up, then that goes into the argument of when does somebody become a
I think we know, mate. I think we know.
Yeah.
Even pro-abortion people like Anne Ferrady, who we had on the show, accept that the fetus is life.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're, this is why I'm kind of teasing this out with you, because if you believe that abortion should be allowed, that means you accept that killing in certain circumstances is possible and should be allowed, right? And so how do we live in a society where you're allowed to kill unborn children, but you're not allowed to kill people who commit heinous crimes? The children are completely innocent.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're talking about the risk of taking innocent life, I think the risk is much higher with something like abortion, isn't it?
Yes.
And yet we allow it to happen, and we don't execute criminals.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does that make sense?
See, we're going to make you pro-death penalty and anti-abortion in one argument.
Yeah, because I actually genuinely think that I don't have a lot of faith in the court system. I don't really have actually a lot of faith in human beings as a result when it comes to making decisions. I think the propensity for error is too great. There have been so many times that people have been given a life sentence and then found that it's been completely wrong.
But it's been a different standard of evidence to the one that I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that if the court decides that beyond a reasonable doubt you did something, you get executed the next day. I'm saying if there are situations with modern technology that allow us to know for a fact whether somebody committed a crime. There are hundreds of people in this country who've committed crimes that we know for a fact they committed. There's no doubt. There's no any question about it.
But there will always be miscarriages of justice, Constantine.
And which is why the standard has to be completely different for the death penalty. If there's any doubt whatsoever, then that's different, right?
But then what about the cases where there was no doubt at the time and then suddenly new evidence was brought to light?
But that's not what happens.
10, 20 years. So it is what happens.
It's not what happens. On the current legal standard, you are convicted of things if it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's proven beyond any doubt, i.e. you've got video evidence from many different cameras, DNA evidence if it's appropriate, witness evidence, and the person themselves says, yeah, I fucking loved it, right? In that situation, I don't see why you shouldn't do it. And anyway, my point is broadly, how do you reconcile that with being pro-choice?
How do I reconcile that with being pro-choice? How do you know I'm pro-choice?
I don't. Are you pro-choice?
Genuinely, I don't know. I don't know.
You know what you're doing right now? That's you. You've been training with your boxing coach, ducking and weaving. Just
I like with the abortion thing. That actually, the more we went into it, the more uncomfortable I became around the whole thing. The more I found out about it, the more deeply uncomfortable I became.
So you're anti-abortion, but also anti-death penalty. I mean, that's more of a consistent point of view.
Yeah.
But are you anti-abortion, though?
The answer is
You want to control women's bodies, Francis?
The answer is genuinely is I don't know. I don't know, because on the surface of it, you go, want your body, your choice. You go, absolutely, yeah. And then when you start factoring in the fact that it's an innocent child being, and what I would feel is if that was my child, I'd be absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
I'd be completely devastated.
Unless you wanted to have a peaceful life.
Exactly. And money, and the chance to enjoy myself.
Alice Coyne in the chat says, no uterus, no choice. End the story.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so what do you think? So let's explore what you think.
What I think it's deeply immoral for people like us to be paying hundreds of thousands of pounds to keep terrorists alive who want to destroy everything that we stand for and who've gone out of their way to murder people in this country. I think on that argument alone, I mean, I'm approaching it from a Jewish position, obviously, right? The financial side of it. I think it's immoral. Why should we?
Why is it immoral?
Why is it immoral?
Yeah.
Why should we pay each of us thousands of pounds to keep people alive who not only want to murder us, but have murdered us with the specific intent of intimidating this country and the people of this country and undermining and destroying Western civilization? Why should we keep them alive? You have a right to life, right? Like all people. But the moment you start going out and deliberately killing innocent people for your warped political ideology, you give that up. And from a purely practical point of view, I don't want to be paying for you to fucking stay alive. Why is it our job? And these people, do you know how much it costs to keep people in prison?
Yeah, it costs a lot of money. It's around £30,000 a year.
I think it's way more than that.
Is it?
I think it's more like 50 or 60. Anton, could you look it up?
I thought it was around 30 odd grand.
I think it's more than that, right? So from that perspective, I don't buy the martyr argument, by the way, because the martyrdom, the terrorists, they aren't celebrating people for being killed. They're celebrating for people for doing things, right?
Yeah.
So if you go and stab loads of people, or if you fly a plane into the World Trade Center, that's why they will remember your name. It's not because you got punished by the state for it. And so 58 grand, apparently, some people are saying in the chat. That's what I thought it was. 48 grand.
48.
Right.
So 50 grand.
So think about that. So basically, that's about 100 grand's worth of income. If you pay about half of it in tax. Maybe it's a bit more. Maybe it's like 120, right?
Yeah.
Not more, sorry, less. Maybe it's about 80 grand, right? So someone has to earn 80 grand in this country to keep one of these fuckers in prison for a year, right? And Polar Red says, KK, according to US figures, more expensive to execute. It's not more expensive to execute. It's more expensive because the whole death row process takes about 20 years, and you have to keep these people in prison for 20 years. With this system, if there's no doubt about their guilt, sure, they can have an appeal process, but one time, and if that fails, off you go, my son.
Off you go.
Off you go. And so from my perspective, it is immoral to expect the very people who are victimized and attacked by these people to pay for these people to have room and board for the rest of their fucking life.
Yeah. Look, the problem is as well, it's like, it's not going to be, the implementation of this system is going to take years and years and years.
That's fine. That's what Nick Clegg said about nuclear power stations. And look where we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. My point is, look, the practicalities of it are obviously important, but I'm just talking on a theoretical basis.
Right.
I don't see any reason to oppose the death penalty for people whose crime is beyond doubt, any doubt. We have evidence from a bunch of sources. It's very clear for heinous crimes, and particularly for people whose entire purpose was to intimidate and destroy Western civilization. I don't see why these people should be allowed to live.
There we go. By the way,
opinion.
I wasn't actually being facetious about the abortion thing. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a similar position.
And actually, the thing is with abortion is the more I look into it, the more I'm actually starting to not enjoy my thoughts on it.
What does that mean? You're massively pro-abortion.